if it's okay, and if, but I really don't want that to kind of get in the way of people speaking really frankly. So I'll ask you afterwards. It's really mostly for me because I'm probably going to want to listen to it again. But if anybody has a problem with recording it, let me know and I will just delete the file. So, welcome everybody. So glad you're here. Thank you for coming. Actually, can you just speak yourself into the room one at a time? I'll call on you. And just let us have one or two words that describe your experience right now, the kind of flavour of your experience. How you doing? Shannon?
I would say confusion.
Okay.
And grief.
Okay, thank you. Evelyn?
Angry and desperate.
Okay, thank you. Anne?
Peaceful and optimistic, and doing things practical.
Okay, thank you. Erica? Oh,
sorry, I've done it. I'm a bit depressed and flat.
Okay. And for me, you know that metaphor, I put it in this week's blog about the caterpillar that needs to turn into mush before they can transform into a butterfly. So I'm feeling mushy, I think. So, so this call was prompted in part by the searingly honest post on the Facebook group by Shannon. Thank you very much, Shannon. And I'm going to ask you in a few moments where you've kind of got to with that. Because of course, as we all know, our thoughts and our feelings and our experiences are all transient. But partly prompted by that and a few other conversations I've been having, I also posted my blog called What's the Story You're Holding About Climate Change? And I posited at least 21 different narratives that it's possible to hold, and I'm sure there are more than that. And made the point that whatever story we hold determines so much else in terms of whether we engage with this predicament and how we engage with it and how we're feeling along the way as well. And I asked the members of the Facebook group to play a game where they picked their top 5 stories, and some of you did this, which was very interesting. And then there was also that wonderful conversation between Amy and Delady Jones, which many of us found super helpful. I did. And it's been a bit of a rocky week for me in terms of my clarity, sort of bumping up against a lot of conflict over in the positive deep adaptation community, coming up against lots of anger, even hatred, again, all kind of understandable and human. And then there was the Jem Bendell, Charles Eisenstein Q&A, which I know many of you watched, and that prompted a lot of reflection. And I've actually been having conversations with Jem Bendell over the last couple of days. And those have helped and not helped. And as much as I respect him and his courage and the work that he's doing, like all of us, he's kind of got his story and he's sticking to it. So one moment, you know, my understanding of the principles grounds me completely, and I see so clearly what my next step should be, and then it kind of, and then it's gone. I've been home and away and home and away a lot over this last week, and I thought I'd already gone through my kind of last night of the soul earlier this year, but it, you know, as many of you have commented, it seems to be sort of cyclical in nature. It does feel very growthful, but at the level of subjective experience, it's not particularly enjoyable. And I said on the last Light on the Horizon call with Amy that this predicament seems to me to be the biggest fucking test of our understanding of the principles ever. Try telling the people in Australia battling the fires that are bigger than Wales that their experience is coming from their thinking. So my hope for this call is that we can together hold a space for some deep listening, exploration, and inquire into what else we can see that supports us in doing the work that we've chosen to do, or even just allows us to live our lives. And as we go into this festive season, perhaps do that with a kind of lightness of heart and clarity of mind. And hopefully that the call helps us to come home, not in denial of what's going on, but as a place to navigate from. So I'm going to start by asking Shannon, kind of where are you at with it all now? And yeah, what do you want to say to kick us off?
Thank you for allowing me to start. I can completely resonate with what you said about it being cyclical. Like, I thought that I had already done this whole grieving what the fuck deep depression thing in the spring and in the summer, and didn't expect to be hit with it again last week. I wouldn't say mine feels particularly growthful. It feels very confusing. I can relate to what you say about the mush feeling of like, what's right? Where do I stand? It feels like there's a lot of conflicting stuff. I was really moved and helped by Erica's post. Like, that was such a breath of fresh air that I wasn't seeing. Not that the other comments weren't helpful. All the comments were helpful. But when I read Erica's, I was like, oh, yes, like, feels like the exhale has finally come out and something fresh can inhale in. So thank you, Erica, for that. That was beautiful. Where I am with it now, I don't, like I said, I feel that there's some grief that I don't know if I'm actually working through it, whatever that means, or if it's just kind of like, let me put that aside. It's the holidays. I have things to do. I have things to attend with family and friends. I don't think I'm actually tending to it in the most kind of fruitful and healing way. And I'm definitely looking forward to January, when I will be house sitting in a beautiful, beautiful eco straw bale house in the mountains, alone with just 2 labs and 7 chickens and a greenhouse full of plants and fish and nature and a stream and no cell service and all that beautiful stuff that I'm so looking forward to. And I feel like that's going to really be a fruitful time to look at all this. But I'm so welcoming this conversation because I have, there was obviously my post, which I was like, I just have to get this off my chest. This is what I'm feeling. And then there's been so many other things in the group. Obviously, Amy's conversation with Adele, I thought was fantastic, because for the first time, I could kind of see the wheels turning with Adele, that she was kind of like, oh, we say we're spiritual teachers, and yet we're not willing to look at anything that isn't, pink and fluffy. And Amy was really, really on it in that conversation. And then last night I listened to the thing that you posted, Kim, about Libby McGugan's podcast on the physics of connection. And that was mind-blowing for me. And that kind of really, I don't even know how to describe it. It was like comforting and illuminating, and yet kind of took me back to, okay, well, how do we do this practically though? It was like, if this is true, if, same as what Charles says, this morphic resonance, this idea that we create this field and that everything is in the web and everything is comes down on a quantum level and it's all connected, then the confusion for me is, well, how does that impact how I live my life? How does it impact the work I do? How does it impact my narrative about this? I loved the game. My biggest one was, I think, number 10. It was the one that was like, a relationship is completely off base, and until that changes, nothing's going to change. But then I think I said in my post, I'm like, I look at certain stuff where I'm like, I have this understanding. I'm an environmentalist. I care. And yet there's changes that I'm not even making in my personal life. Like, this is coffee every day. So I'm like, wait a second. I can talk about morphic resonance and all of these changes, but then how am I contributing to that field? And kind of where is the role in the individual and the intersection with the collective? So I haven't figured all of that out yet, but
Yeah.
I'm here, I'm open, I'm feeling my way through the darkness, and ultimately I just I'm really lucky. I have amazing friends, amazing family, this amazing group. Like, I have all the support I need, so I don't feel like I'm at all alone in this.
Yeah.
So that's something that I have to be really grateful for. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, that's brilliant. And I want to thank you so much for the kind of the rawness of your original post about this, and yeah, just some of the conversations that's kicked off. So brilliant. Evelyn, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm very grateful and happy to meet you all on this call, because with Shannon sharing, I realized how much information there is I haven't accessed yet or listened to. So I don't think I've read any of what you shared. I've seen it like on the Facebook group, and then I feel like I'm sometimes get carried away by my mind wanting to figure things out, as I also heard Shannon say. So it's like I create a place in my mind where I'm going to have figured it all out, and there is going to be serenity. So I think, yeah, part of the process is just noticing that it's also just an illusion, right? That place, in my view, doesn't exist. So, but then I get carried away with wanting to consume all the information so that I can figure it out, and it becomes very much overwhelm of information. And then what I noticed today is lately I've been feeling quite angry and frustrated, and so I recently saw a post about Boris Johnson, who wants to invest in the aviation industry, and then like I was in a very much of a grieving sort of state, and that really kicked me back into anger and like, what? And today I facilitated a sharing circle for Extinction Rebellion. I do that every week. And then I just noticed that by hearing other people share, and that's that morphic field, right? That usually after the sharing is done, there is this place of very grounded, rooted serenity, because it's now in the air, right? And we've all gone through all the emotions. So that's why I think sessions like these are so important, and healing, like that healing space, just having people listening when you share.
Yeah.
So I also notice when Shannon is sharing, like I go through the whole thing with you, Shannon, and that's great, because then I process some stuff as well, and it's always about all of us when one of us is talking, which is great. And it makes me link back to the feeling that we're all connected, aren't we? And yeah, that's really beautiful. Sometimes I feel like my spiritual development is mostly in my head. So, and then I sort of know things like, I know we're not separate, and I know we're all connected, but then to have these moments where you actually land in it and it's real, that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think what I also wanted to share was, Kim, you shared that video of the countdown TED talk or presentation of that. And then I really noticed as well that I was getting angry watching it. And I was like everyone's late to the party. What are you going on about? Like, it really felt like a couple of adults believing in Santa Claus or something, and that's the story I sort of held about it. And then a part of me is like that little child that really wants to believe still, and then I think, is that child not already dead? Like, am I not grown up now? Or so that cyclical thing is definitely happening, and you get kicked back in from the one thing to the other. So yeah, I noticed that very much today.
Yeah.
I think that's all I want to share for now.
Yeah, brilliant.
Thanks for listening.
And of course, you're coming on the Edge in January.
Yeah.
On 4 days.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, me too. Looking forward to spending that time with you. Thank you. Anne.
Yeah, where I am is I'm feeling okay most of the time. Yeah, I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling very peaceful. I'm not trying to work things out. You know, I've stopped trying to work things out. I'm still reading a lot. I'm still reading a lot about what I can do and what people are doing and what things are possible to do practically and what I feel like doing. So I'm and that doesn't mean I'm denying what's going on. I mean, I'm quite well aware of what's going on and what the possibilities are, and I'm not in denial about that. But at the same time, I'm just like taking it one step at a time and one day at a time, and what can I do today and what comes to me today to do, and being in whatever moment I'm in. And whatever feelings, you know, that there were feelings come up sometimes, and whatever feelings come up, that's fine too. Yeah, and so I guess I do. The thought about it is there quite a lot of, well, most of the time, I guess. But I'm doing things. I'm greening the desert here as much as I can. I'm doing I'm living in a holiday apartment, but the gardens outside are just, because it's a holiday apartment, nobody does anything with them and they're completely desert, and I'm like, and everybody's looking at me like really strange because I'm digging trenches and trying to collect, you know. When they said there was going to be water last week, I went completely mad for about 3 days trying to get it ready to collect all the water and keep it all, and then we didn't get any. We got about one spot, and I was like, oh god. But even that, you know, I don't get, oh my god, that's terrible, we didn't get any rain. I'm just like, okay, so that happened, and let me do some more. And so I'm just doing practically what I can, and noticing feelings, and yeah, just being aware of it and not trying to change anything in my experience. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Anne. Hello, Yitka.
Hello, Kim. Hi.
How are you? We're just kind of going around sharing really our what's going on for us now, our thoughts and feelings, our experience now. So I'll go to Erica and then I'll come to you if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Erica. Oh, Erica.
Sorry. Right. Yeah, as I said, I'm a bit flat today. I had some quite bad news this morning about a family member, so I'm sort of still sitting with that a bit. And in terms of everything else that's going on, I think a couple of things that, you know, make absolute sense to me. One is about, as other people have talked about, which is the cyclical nature of this. And I think it is normal and natural and inevitable that we are just all going to cycle around, you know, if you like, all the stages of grief. I mean, you know, and that there are things that happen that provoke thoughts that take us into some quite dark places. I mean, you know, obviously for us in the UK, having recently had that election, and beginning to see what some of the implications of that are going to be, and just feeling pretty hopeless and helpless in the face of that, and going through the stage of thinking, what is the absolute fucking point of me doing anything? And at the same time, I think one of the things that, you know, really struck me at a Christmas drinks with some XR friends was that, you know, one of the things we talked about was that, you know, if nothing else, we had found each other. And there is so much in that. Yeah. In that, and you know, this call is another example, and the existence of this group is just, and the way that it's growing, and the conversations we're having, you know, is just amazing, because, you know, that feels like that's part of the evolution. You know, that's part of the constructive development. And no, we've got no idea where it's going and blah, 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 but I mean, it does feel, it feels positive. There's another 3 principles friend of mine locally who's also in XR, and we are getting together after Christmas to have a chat about whether there is something that we feel moved to do more, as it were, almost like more overtly within XR around introducing the 3 principles to people. You know, we've got no idea yet what that might mean or look like, but just it's sort of, it's beginning to feel right. I mean, up until now, I've not done that, but I think the time might be right. And so, yeah, it just feels like, you know, yes, it's all cyclical, but there is also some kind of evolution. There's some kind of pattern which we can't sort of see. But and the other thought that has been occurring to me is that there's something about this idea of, you know, we were made for this time, and that we needed to go through a time as difficult as this in order to evolve, and that, of course, it's excruciating and messy and all sorts of rubbish happens that we'd rather didn't, but that it's sort of, there is a sense in which it's had to happen to really, you know, wake us all up. And I think the other thing for me is to a sort of a level of, I watch a lot of sort of wildlife stuff, and I, quite by chance today, just when I was eating lunch, saw a David Attenborough thing that I hadn't seen in one of his Planet series. And it was a really old one. It was on yesterday, which for those of you not in the UK is a repeat of very, very ancient programs. It was about a really bizarre fungus that is a parasite on insects, and the way that, and although I tell you, it was completely one of those complete Steven Spielberg gruesome horror things. But, you know, what David Attenborough said was, okay, the benefit of this is that it means that, you know, that no insect or creature gets to be too dominant in the jungle, which is where this was. And that really struck home to me about how humans have got too dominant, and that, you know, awful as this is to say in some ways, but, you know, maybe this needs to happen, you know, to manage the fact that we have. And it reminds me of, I did an amazing exercise with Charles Eisenstein once. I'm very lucky to have done some work with him, in that he had us do an exercise where, I'll try and keep this as short as I can, but basically we had to project ourselves into the future and look back and be talking to somebody in the present day about what had happened. And it was a future where things had kind of worked out. And what we sort of heard, those of us who went into the future and were describing what had happened, heard ourselves saying, was something along the lines of, there are only now 500 million people on the planet. And this is how it's worked.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's been playing with me today, and so on, about, you know, at some level, maybe this is what has to happen. So it's tough, but maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much, Erica. Yitka, welcome. How are you doing? Yitka, your sound. Sorry, thank you.
If I'm honest, I'm still, you know, I feel like this is so new for me. Like, it's just like, you know, I sometimes wake up and I think, is this really happening? And so I don't have much to say. I mean, I just, just there is this knowing these three principles, and everything comes through the thought, and then it just bumps into this kind of reality where I just, I struggle to find some sense in that, and it's just like it's going like this. So, and I also find out how few people are aware of the facts that you have posted, and even if somebody is aware about it, or or read about that, it's like going so, like behind the curtain. It doesn't concern me, and I just probably start to realize that it concerns me as well, and I don't know. Sometimes I have days like I wake up and I think, doesn't make any sense. And then the only thing that's left is this, what we have. I mean, that's how it feels. But still, I don't want to, I just don't want to live like this is all going to end, so nothing matters anymore. That's just, I don't want that.
No.
I mean, that's,
I think it matters enormously.
Yeah.
How we live now. And
yeah.
As I said at the beginning, the stories we make, the narratives we make about what's going on.
Think like, what can I do? I do crazy things like, when I go to shower, I take 2 or 3 buckets and just to save water. So I shower, and the water that I catch, I pour in the toilet so that I don't have to use that much water. I don't do so much washing in the washing machine anymore, because if I see I don't need it, I wash some little things on my hand, and just if I have to do shopping, I choose shops I can walk to instead of going by car. But I know these are just still little things, and I'm not much of a talker about these things, but I even talk to people about the climate. They look at me like I'm crazy, or and the crazy thing was, I met a friend yesterday, and I spoke to him about that, and that was so strange, because I told him about the sea level and what has to happen just by which date, and he said, yes, I know, and then he was explaining me even in a much advanced facts. He is aware, but it's like, okay, let's drink a coffee. I don't know,
Yeah. Thank you.
I think they don't know. They don't know. And I think I don't know either. I mean, I think I'm not yet completely I'm not yet even angry.
Yeah. So if there is such a thing as that change curve, you're kind of still you're in shock, really.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So just a couple of things I wanted to pick up on in building on what you guys were saying. The one is about the it's really interesting. I'm going to be speaking to Extinction Rebellion Henley. They've asked me to go and speak with them because they're all over the place and really overwhelmed and struggling and so on. So that's really that's great. And finding more and more opportunities to speak with people in XR. Also, last week I recorded I was interviewed by a guy called Dean Walker. I don't know if any of you know him. He's fairly big cheese in the deep adaptation community, and runs a podcast called, or a webinar series called The Poetry of Predicament. And I made the whole thing about the 3 principles in the light of this. And it was so interesting to notice. I mean, I love the guy, he's a great guy, but how we're all so stuck in the story again. We're all so stuck in our particular narrative. And he comes from very much a kind of a fairly mainstream psychotherapeutic background. And I wanted to just kind of flag up some possible blind spots that community has, and sort of introduce the principles through that. And, you know, this is a guy who is so caring, so loving, so awake in many ways, but it was, he found it quite difficult to hear some of that stuff that I was sharing, but who knows? Who knows who? He's published it, so who knows who else will see it? So that's good. The other thing that really struck me, and I so agreed, Shannon, with your outrage about the TED countdown thing in many ways, and this isn't very enlightened of me, but Christiana Figueres drives me crazy. You know, she has done she did this amazing thing of Paris 2015, but like fuck all's happened since then. So, but this kind of, I don't know why I find myself so grated on by her with this, you know, endlessly, maybe it's because it reminds myself of how I used to be about everything, just kind of, yes, we can, you know, with everything. But what struck me after watching it and reading, you know, your post, Shannon, was, again, I asked myself the question, like, what would the solution, how quick I am to go, oh no, I don't like that. I don't like that solution. I don't like that initiative. I don't like that program because it doesn't look like the one I've got in my head. And yeah, that was just really interesting. I kind of forced myself to watch it a couple of times just to see the try and find a kernel of hope and optimism in there, rather than, oh, you guys don't know what you're talking about. You're living in cloud cuckoo land. You are the elite, actually. And you're also just obsessed with carbon emissions, which, you know, isn't the only thing. But it was an interesting question. So again, for me, this whole thing is about how do we hold multiple contradictory stories simultaneously? And as I say, I really thought I'd kind of cracked that earlier in the autumn, that yes, collapse may be inevitable or unfolding already. Yes, it may well be a huge wake-up call that we need. Yes, you know, and if you go through those 21 narratives, it was kind of like, with a few exceptions, I could make a case for all of them and be okay about it and not have to know, not have to kind of pin my colours to a particular mast, but just to be a kind of what I do best, which is be a facilitator of others processing that for themselves. But it's hard. I'm finding it hard at the moment, especially the morphic resonance thing. You know, if it's true, and I have some question marks about, I don't have question marks about morphic resonance. I have some question marks about whether we are summoning a particular future. But if that's true, then calls like, you know, we shouldn't be having the Facebook group. We shouldn't be thinking about climate change. We should, you know, we certainly shouldn't be sharing the bad news about it. So yeah, I'll just open it up again to anybody that wants to come in about anything anybody's said. Yeah, Erica.
I'm deeply skeptical about.
Oh, there you go.
Sorry,
yeah. No, you're right.
I'm interesting. I mean, I'm very skeptical of any sentence with the word "should" in it.
Yeah.
And I certainly should. And having said that, I'm also very skeptical of, you know, this thoughts becomes things type philosophy. I think frankly that gives us far more agency than we have. You know, there's a bit of ego lurking in there. You know, we're just a part of a single, huge, deeply interconnected system, which is, if you like, and what this business about morphic resonance is one way of talking about that, but it doesn't literally mean that what you're doing personally, you know, is having this vast impact somewhere else. It just means that we're all cells in a single body, and that yes, we do interconnect at deep levels that we don't even begin to understand, not just us, but I mean all of life on Earth, and probably further afield for that matter. And so in accepting that, you know that what you do does have some resonance, but that it doesn't place upon you any duty, if you like, to be one thing rather than another. I think the mere fact of being increasingly conscious of how things work, which is, you know, who we are in this group, simply means that you're beginning to behave with greater awareness of the difference between responding to your feelings and actually following the nudges from deep truth. And that the fact that we are in that place, to a greater or lesser degree, depending what day of the week it is, in itself is what has some resonance around the rest of the world that for the most part we trust is sort of more constructive than not. And I don't think, you know, for me, none of that means that we ought to be doing anything in particular. We find ourselves choosing to walk to the shops rather than get in the car, or whatever it might be. But it doesn't mean that we have to have this list of things that we must do, and if we don't do them, we're a bad person, blah, blah, blah. And I also think that that is just what occurs to us to do or not to do. It's not to do with, you know, responding to other people's guilt tripping or, you know, whatever it is. You know, and you know, and it's going to be different for all of us, and it's different for all of us for a reason that we don't know, but it feels to me like, you know, there is this huge picture that we're just, each of us is just a, you know, a pixel in a part of, and we each of us do what we do. And that as our awareness, our understanding, our consciousness changes and, you know, grows, one would like to hope, but, you know, fluctuates, whatever, then, you know, we'll behave accordingly. And that's as much as we can do, because we are, you know, we are absolutely not in control of what we think and feel and therefore do. You know, we've got far less control than we love to think we have.
Yes.
And you know, and there is a kind of, then there is an ease in that, because you can at least notice that when you're beating yourself up, that there is no point in that. It doesn't stop us doing it, you know, we'll do it, but the more we can notice that there is no point in beating yourself up, and that there is no point of resolution or enlightenment or anything like that. We're all sort of, we've almost been sold the pup, I think, by the whole sort of personal development thing of that there will be a point at which we feel peace. And that for good, that's it, it's done, job done, you know. No. You know, we have moments of it, fabulous, but, you know, it's not a permanent landing place. And I think, and I'm saying this because I just know how much of my life I've pointlessly wasted thinking that, you know, if only my next insight, I shall be there, I shall have landed, I shall have arrived, and, you know, I'll be this sort of picture of serenity and what have you. But it's, for me, it's just a realization. And I think, you know, all of our circumstances are just, again, a sort of a wake-up call to the fact that, nah, that's not like that. You're just doing what you can in the moment, and that's it.
Yeah, and as ever, you bring such a beautiful wisdom, Erica. Yeah, that's amazing. I think I've just, you know, as I'm constantly telling my clients, I think I've just got too much thinking about it at the moment.
Oh, I mean, you know, we wouldn't be human if we didn't. Absolutely not, we wouldn't. You know, I mean, you know.
Because I have had those incredibly clear nudges, and as I said, you know, known exactly what my particular path is, and I know that that came from deep truth. And at the moment, I'm kind of, I'm getting nudges, but they're in totally the opposite. There's many of them, and they're totally, you know, opposite directions. So I know that's not truth. That's just a whole load of different thought streams happening.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the other expression I remember, which is a favourite of Michael Neal's, which is about being okay to hang out in the unknown.
Yeah, that's where I am. Yeah.
And being fine with that.
I want to just quickly ask something though, because I'm feeling the exact same as Kim, where I'm having nudges, but they're all in opposite directions, and I think that's where my confusion is stemming from. It's like I'm being pulled in like 6 different directions based on the narrative du jour. And what I'm wondering is, what if that's part of the paradox? Like, what if that's not a sign that we have too much thinking, but that's a sign that there's so many different levels on which the universe is asking us to respond? I mean, I don't know. That's just a question I posed. Evelyn, yes?
I'm just laughing because aren't we doing exactly the same? We're meaning-making machines, and you're doing it right at this very moment again. We're trying to make meaning of us, trying to make meaning of everything. So and that's where we get completely lost, isn't it? So there is this magic in, I think the moment you notice it is the entrance door to some sort of calmness, or I don't know what we would call it, peace, or just to separate yourself from that meaning makingness that always goes on continuously, I think. So I'm laughing because it's just a typical human condition I recognize in myself so much, and that gets me lost in the woods, really. So it's very recognizable what you're saying.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
You have time. What's coming to me is reminding me of about 6 months before I ever heard of the principles. I got into a complete and total panic because I was helping my mother had cancer, and she'd been told that there was no hope, but I'd found some alternative cures for her, and she had been getting better, and her tumors had been going away, even though they said they couldn't. And then this one day, she told me that the tumors had started coming back, and I felt completely responsible for her and her health and what was going on for my dad, and not letting them go through all of that, right? And so when she told me that this stuff was that the tumors were coming back, I had all this thinking about, oh my God, I've got to do something about this. I've got to find a new cure. I've got to, so on and so on. And then on top of that, I had all the other thoughts about, like that's what reminded me was the morphic resonance thing, was like, you mustn't think like that because that'll make her even worse, and that'll all on and on and on. And then, so I had all these layers of thought going on. And then behind that, I heard, right, what you need to do is you need to get out of here, go and get in your little camper van, drive up to the North Coast in Jersey, drive up to the North Coast, sit somewhere nice and quiet and peaceful, and look at the, just look at the lovely surroundings and ask for guidance. So that's what I did, right? So I'm all that stuff still going on, but I go up there, sit quiet, ask for guidance, and had this really interesting experience where what came to me was I was told to repeat 3 phrases. when I say I was told, I never heard any words, but and this was before I realized, like Erica was just saying, that we don't have any control, actually. This is right. So there's me thinking I'm in control and I can do all of this stuff. And then what I was told to repeat was, every time when I was thinking about uncomfortable thoughts or feelings, I was told to say, don't let this go. Don't let it fade, just trust. Which was basically saying, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to make this go away. You don't have to try and do anything. Just understand. And what I understood by that was that the bigger oneness that was in control, not me, the human me. And I didn't realize at that stage that I was that oneness, that I was that spirit, but I just repeated those phrases and stopped trying to fight what I was feeling, what I was thinking, and just all of a sudden felt completely calm and managed to go back and for the first time in my life didn't feel responsible for what was going on with my parents. And so I guess the morphic resonance thing doesn't, it may well occur, but we don't have any control over it. There's no point in getting all het up about, oh, should I be doing this? Or just like Erica just said, that we're not in control of it anyway. So we don't have to try and be in that resonance. We just not the.
It's not our job. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. Yes, Yitka.
Yes, that was something that because I was listening lately to Gerhard Kramer. He was talking about control, and that was also, for me very confusing, because he says there is nothing you can control. You can't even control which thought is coming in your head. So when you talk about we are not responsible for the thinking, and we are also not responsible for the feelings that we have. But the only thing I think for me, if you can call it a responsibility, is once you know what you know, you will act upon that. So you don't have to act upon this thinking that you have, in panic, anger. You still can feel there, but you don't have to act upon that. It very much reminds me, of the boat accident that we had. I told you about.
Yeah.
And I remember there was, there comes a time when you have to do something. So you do something. I mean, and we did all we could, but in the end we ended up on a piece of boat that was sinking, and there was just knowing there is only water surrounding us. It's so cold that you can't swim. The shore is so far away you can't swim, and there's really nothing you can do, and there's no control. But still, I will never forget that feeling of, and it came itself. It's okay. It's okay, And then a thought occurred in somebody's head. I don't know if it was in mine or my partner, but somebody asked, what time do the fishermen go out? And this was at 2:00 in the morning, and somebody said at 3:00, and we were looking at this thing that was floating, but still, going down, and it was still, well, 5:00 is too late, but who knows? And there was a fisher boat passing by, and they didn't see us. It was but okay, they didn't see us. But then when they passed, they turned around, and we were okay, they have seen us, and they came, they helped, but they didn't see us. They thought that we were a whale, but it's just the most, incredible thing that you can't imagine. But we didn't act upon of course, when we were three of us sitting next to each other on that floating thing. I mean, we knew that there was this thing was sinking because of the weight of three people.
Yeah.
And it's sitting on top of it. But there was never a moment of we have to throw somebody off, or never a moment we didn't act upon what we have felt. So we don't have to do that, you know.
Yeah.
And indeed, you don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what kind of future is there.
No, we don't. No, we don't. And no matter how much certainty people have about their particular narrative, that's nobody knows.
Yeah.
And yeah, lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
So what's coming out of this call for me are the themes of agency and control and responsibility. Again, the stories or the narratives that we're holding and that we can sometimes get wedded to without realizing. The importance of hanging out in the unknown. Thank you, Erica. I'm just being okay with not knowing, and that it's possible, and I've certainly experienced this a lot this year. Even once you wake up to this predicament, it's possible to live from home, to live from that place of ease and clarity. Because it's still true that our experience isn't coming from the climate crisis. Or it's certainly not coming from our story about what it's going to be like 10 years from now, or 5 years from now, or a year from now. It's coming from thought in the moment, so that it's still possible to have actually a really joyful, Merry Christmas. And I don't mean to sound, simplistic about that, but it is. So sadly, we're almost at the end. I just want to go round again and have each of you, maybe just reflect back what your take from this, and it's my idea that one of the things I certainly want to do is have at least one of these calls a month for people in that Facebook group. So I'll be inviting you to those, so we can just keep this connection going during 2020. We've also got Amy's Light on the Horizon calls, and she's got the next one happening on Friday, where her guest is Linda Pettit. So looking forward to that. So Shannon, over to you to start, just as a kind of au revoir statement.
I would just say thank you, everyone, for being here. Like I said at the beginning, I am in a lot of confusion, so I was just open to hearing so many different thoughts and suggestions and ideas and reminders. So yeah, I'm just gonna come away with the knowing that it's okay to not know, and just let things settle where they may. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. Evelyn.
This call has been a beautiful reminder of, for me, it's all about attachment. So true freedom is every moment is actually an opportunity and an entrance door to lose grip of what thoughts or experiences or future you're attached to. So you can rest in being at any moment that you want. So that's been a really beautiful reminder of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anne.
Okay, so, I'd like to say thank you too, and it's just for me just an opportunity to experience the love of being with everyone. It's just lovely.
Thank you. I keep going to call you Anne whenever I look at your label. And Secret, what do you think?
I can't get rid of it because it's I had to put that on there to use.
Yeah.
I can't get rid of it now.
Oh, thank you. Yitka.
I'm so glad I was here, because I was really, as I said in the beginning, I was so confused and my head was like going like this. I was like, I was a bit rather cleaning and just not to think about things. and this is just, you know, like clear. It just made me feel more quiet about, you know, you don't have it under control, you know, you don't have to carry that on your shoulder, but still you can do things. I mean, when it occurs to me, I mean, of course I will do them. I mean, I have no problem talking to people about that. And, you know, sometimes, you know, even if the only thing that happens that it brings people more together.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Erica.
Yeah, absolutely. What Itka just said about, you know, just the power of coming together and talking and feeling able to, you know, express completely freely how you're feeling and be understood, is just so powerful. So I'm really pleased that you're going to, you know, be doing this once a month. I think that's going to be fantastic. So yeah, looking forward to that, and thank you very, very much for taking the initiative.
Thank you, Erica, and thank you all. Yeah, so I'll be in touch about future dates. Keep on posting on the group, whatever it is that's going on for you. You don't have to edit that to sound a certain way. And wishing you genuinely a joyful, loving, connected Christmas and New Year. So yeah, lots of love, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Lots of love.
Bye-bye.